Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of our Tuesday night interviews with very special guests. Tonight's program is dedicated Lila Nishmas Bilha Bastavorov Abraham Akoyen. It is her second yahrzeit tonight. May her neshama have an aliyah. We have with us a very special guest today. This is Michla Lichy, who is from our here in hometown, here in Chicago. And she is currently living in Eretz Yisrael. I'm going to stop telling her story. I'm going to ask her, Michla, first of all, thank you so much. Baruch Hashem, we see that you're here and healthy. Give us a little background. Tell us about your sort of little growing up story and how you wound up in Eretz Yisrael. So introduce yourself to everybody and give us a little background about yourself.
Hey, I'm Michla Lichy. My maiden name is Hershkowitz. I'm from Chicago, kind of. But my parents actually live in Des Plaines. They have Chabad and Free of Niles. And I grew up there my whole life, and I love Chicago. And I had Rabbi Epstein as a high school teacher for Tanya, I think.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And then I was in Chicago for a long time, even as an adult, till I was 21, 22. I got married. And I moved to Florida with my husband, who's from Florida. And then we lived in Florida for about 3.5 years. And we decided to make Aliyah, to move to Israel. We lived in Israel. We made Aliyah 9 years ago. We lived in Beersheba, which is a city in southern Israel, for 8 years. And about a year ago, we moved to a little town called Shuva, which is a mosab, near the Gaza border. It's 4.5 kilometers from the border. And it's an awesome little town. It has really special people. The weather's pretty decent. There's amazing schools for my kids. The people are really, really, really special people. We were looking for a few years, for a place where we felt at home, and we were excited to live in Israel. Around that community, and we found it. So it's great. It's really great. In general, it's in the area that we live in is called Otev Aza, which is the Gaza envelope. It's in general known to get rockets. So when we moved there a year ago, we're like, okay, we could do rockets once or twice a year. We rented a house with a safe room in it. One of my kids' bedroom is a safe room. That's my background story.
So give us a little bit of the details. First of all, how many kids, Kanai do you have?
We have 5. My oldest is 11, and my youngest is a year and a half.
Year and a half. So your kids are basically Israeli. You live in Israel. Was that always an aspiration of yours to make Aliyah? Did you grow up kind of hoping you would one day do that, or is that sort of after you got married?
Not. I mean, I always loved Israel. I see my mom's on the video.
Don't worry. We won't let her unmute and embarrass you. So.
No, but I grew up feeling a big connection to Eretz Yisrael, to Israel. My father's parents lived there. So we went to visit, and I always felt very connected. I was like, oh, I hope to be able to move there one day. But it wasn't I'm going to live in Israel kind of person at all. I more like once I got married and once we had kids, I was working in the educational system in Miami, and I had worked in it in Chicago also. And it's really awesome and special. But I realized that I really, really, for myself, I want to live in Israel, but I really would like to bring up my children in Israel, more than anything else. More than me needing to live there, I really wanted to raise my family there.
Beautiful. So you arrive in Israel, and as you said, you initially lived in Beersheba, and then you moved about a year ago. Try to describe to people maybe who aren't familiar, what is a moshav, and how does that sort of work? I mean, we're familiar, as you understand, the Chicago experience. You have sort of frum neighborhoods and Jewish neighborhoods that aren't necessarily so frum and so on. But give people maybe a feel for what that kind of community looks like in Israel, and what is a moshav? Give us maybe some some background to that.
So Beersheba is a regular city, like a mixed, it's just a big city. Neighborhoods, like you said, like firmer neighborhoods, less from neighborhoods, and a moshav is much smaller. Our moshav is about 150 families. There's a gan, like for small age kids, like for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, but the school is outside of the little town. There's a little, very small makolet, which is a very small grocery store. Like it's not even a grocery store. It's somewhere between like a convenience store, like a nice convenience. It's a large convenience store, let's say that, with fresh bread and eggs and stuff like that. And beyond that, it's just houses, and a moshav is agricultural. Most people who live on the moshav, who own land on the moshav, they own farmland with that. And they farm. So like we rent, but our landlords own fields, orchards of oranges and citrus and stuff like that. They grow stuff like that. They also grow tomatoes and lettuce, like all the things you're hearing about, like people coming to help farmers farm now. Those are the kinds of things that are grown on our moshav. A moshav is different than a kibbutz in that it's less communal life. A kibbutz is more communal life. Each kibbutz is a little different, but a moshav is like each individual family lives there, and people who own farmland obviously have more invested in the land there. And not everyone farms, but it's kind of like a small suburb, I would say, of farmland.
Now, when you talk about 150 families, I'm assuming that's 150 Jewish families, right? I mean,
yeah. So they're all Jewish. It's technically our moshav is referred to as mixed, which is religious and not religious. What it means practically is that we have gates surrounding the whole moshav, and the gates on Shabbos are closed, but anyone who lives there is able to open them. Like there's no security guard. It's just a closed gate, and there's a code to be able to get in and out. Anyone who lives there is able to open it and close it, even on Shabbos. So there are some cars driving around, but like not a lot at all. And most people keep Shabbos to some extent. Meaning like we walk in the streets on Shabbos, and when a car comes, it's driving really slow, and like it knows the driving car knows it's Shabbos also, you know?
Okay, so you're living about 4 kilometers, as you said, from the Gaza border. You're living there for a year. It's Tishrei time. Everybody is celebrating Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. It's the last day of all of Yontif, and Eretz Yisrael, you have one day of Yontif. If you can, please, to the best of your ability, take us back to October 7th. You wake up expecting it to be a day of Simchas Torah and celebrating and dancing with the Torahs. And if you can sort of walk us through your experience.
So I actually was just mentioning this to somebody. It was because we've only been there. We just finished our first year in Shuva, which we didn't finish in our house, obviously. It's a moshav that was established by people from Tripoli. So they're very heavily Sephardic people. And so the hakafos the night before looked very different than what we're used to in our Chabad houses. And on Simchas Torah night, they take out all their Sifrei Torah, which are something like between 50 and 70 or 80 Sifrei Torah, big, beautiful, silver. And they take them all out and they dance with them, and it's so beautiful. But it was late at night, and I was oh, I can't wait for tomorrow. We're gonna get to do this again and celebrate. And 6:30 in the morning, we were woken up to sirens. So when we have a siren, we have something like 15 seconds, maybe a little less, to get all of our people into our safe room, which is one of the bedrooms in my house, close the door and lock it, and also have the window closed and locked.
Get back to them, no?
Um,
Right,
so
to the Rebbe
we-
before you get back to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We
I'll do that too.
um anyway, we got to that. So we had 15 seconds to do that. So me and my husband woke up. We grabbed whatever kids were needed to be grabbed, got into the safe room, and closed the door. And we're like, okay, we'll take a nap, and like maybe we'll get to shul. Like we weren't sure how it was going to go down. Generally, when rockets come, we kind of like there's like rockets come, and there's kind of a break for a few hours, and then they keep coming. But pretty quickly, we understood that it wasn't a regular. In Hebrew, we call it a sevev. Sevev is like not a war, just like the days that we get rockets usually. And like school is canceled and stuff like that.
So
But
let me
we,
just sort of jump in here. You say, you get rockets usually. Like you've been there for a year. How many times have you had to go into the safe room and been? I mean, you just sort of brushed over that like it's routine. Give us,
right.
you got to sort of nuance that out a little bit for us.
So all the communities that live in Ontifada, we get rockets once or twice a year. That's just
And you
what
say
life
that so
looks
casually, as if that's
right. I know. Even in Beersheba, we got some. So like when we moved closer to the border, we're like, okay, a little more, it's gonna be fine, you know. But I actually wasn't. We had a week that we got rockets, and I was actually in Chicago for that week. It was around Lag BaOmer time. So my husband was home with my kids. Besides, like I had two kids, my husband had three kids at home, and he was home. Um, and so I actually didn't experience it, but it meant that like they were in the mamad for like a few hours, and then they were able to like kind of be in the house, not go outside and not run around so much, and not like go places that they didn't need to go. Um, but like kind of hang near the mamad, but not inside.
So can you
Um,
feel like what does this safe room look like? I mean, do you have phones? Do you have radio? Do you have chairs? Do you have food? I mean, you
yeah.
say it so casually, and I'm like, my mind is blown by the concept. If you have to wait
So
online for for 5 minutes at Jewel, like, yeah, what is this, Russia? Come on, give us a little more today.
uh, so it's my kid's bedroom. It's my boys, my oldest, my 11-year-old, and my 1.5-year-old. They share the room. It looks like a regular bedroom, except that the window is able to be like sealed shut from the outs, like with a metal door. And then the walls are all made of cement. And then the door closes with like a special lock kind of thing.
Is there food
But
and so on? You have supplies there?
so we don't keep supplies there. We could we usually like just grab stuff on the way, depending on. So at 6:30 in the morning, we didn't grab anything because it was early in the morning. And even in the beginning of the day, we have where it's a ground floor house, and mice sometimes crawl around. So as the siren started, one of the things my oldest son, he's like, "No one's eating in this room. I don't want any mice coming." Um, as the day progressed, he did not get his way. We ended up eating a lot of food in there. Um, but we don't keep supplies there. It's just a regular bedroom. And then like when we need stuff, we kind of with right on regular siren days for sure, we have time to like go to the rest of the house, grab something, and we have 15 seconds to be able to get back in and close and lock the door. Um,
And is the siren just
obvious,
going on and on and on, or is it bursts?
yeah. Well, so usually it's not a siren sound near us. We're right near the speakers, so we hear it really loudly. And it's actually just a nice lady's voice saying, Seva Adom, Seva Adom.
Red
Like,
alert.
yeah, 3 or 4 times. And then you have to be in the safe room. We're supposed to wait like 10 minutes till we hear a boom, and then we could go up. That's like in regular times. Um, in regular times. But Simchas Torah morning, we heard Seva Adom, and then it just kept going and going, and there wasn't even like a big break of um, quiet to like get stuff. And then we also started hearing different noises, and we kind of like we fell back asleep, and then we were awake a little bit, and we looked at each other. Me and my husband were like, something's going on, but we had no idea what was going on.
Did you have a radio
No,
there or any other communication?
we didn't have a radio, and we didn't turn on our phones. I don't know why. So we had no idea what was going on at all. We were just staying in our mamad. And then
Yeah.
as the day progressed, we heard like a lot of different noises. We didn't know what they were. It was a lot of gunshots. It was helicopters flying really low. Um, and at a certain point of the day, we saw a lot of dark black, like smoke and ash right outside. Just for reference, where Shuva is exactly is like there's Be'eri is over here. There's Alumim over here. Kfar Aza is over like here, and then Shuva is right right here. Like it's very close. Um, I wish I had like a picture to show you, but um, what it means is that uh, we were saved by like crazy miracles. The kibbutzim that were infiltrated were like the first row, and we're the second row right behind it, basically. Just like a few meters away. It's very close. After Simchas Torah ended, we found out that there was actually a helicopter, like the IDF's helicopter, one of the IDF helicopters, took out a team of terrorists right in the fields behind our house, behind Shuva, that were on their way to come into Shuva. But they were killed before they even got close enough, which was a huge miracle because we don't have regular security, number one. And number two, we have this wonderful community of everyone's like, it's a lot of Breslov, Hasidic type of people who are very all about peace, love, and there's not a lot of guns on the moshav at all. So a bunch of guys got together, like the morning once everyone kind of, most other people on the moshav figured out what was going on. Most people turned on their phones. Um, they got together and they're like, we're gonna set up security. We're gonna start like going on rooftops to like watch and make sure no one's coming in, no terrorists are infiltrating. And they counted the amount of guns they had, and it was like 5 or 6 guns all together. So if anything were to happen, like if any terrorist came, there was not enough ammunition to do anything. Um, like according to nature, it wouldn't have been a fight even, you know. So the fact that like they skipped over us was a huge miracle.
When did you
Um,
find out that that it was safe to come out? I mean, how, you're in this safe room for hours, you're hearing the gunshots, the smoke. Can you walk us through
uh,
that? How are your kids reacting?
so most of my kids were fine. I had one that wasn't great, honestly. Um, she was having trouble like breathing and regulating herself. And because we live there, we have like a song that the kids learn in school, like in kindergarten, that like helps them like do movement and breathing while there's a red alert. But she wasn't great. So this whole time we didn't know what was really going on. We just knew something was wrong and something was not just sirens. And again, we didn't turn on our phones, and we don't have neighbors that live right near us. So um, we were in our mamad, but we also would like walk around our house for a little bit and then went back in at around like 1-ish p.m., I would say. We saw tons of soldiers drive up to our driveway, and they're like tanks. We have a really big empty driveway. And so we went outside. We're like, what's going on? And they're like, you don't know what's going on? And they wanted to, and our kids were outside with us also for a few seconds. And they're like, do your kids speak English? Because he wanted to tell us in English instead of speaking, like, he didn't want to tell us in front of the kids what was going on. And we're like, yeah, they do. So he's like, get into the mamad, which is the safe room, close the door and don't come out. Like, just hold it shut. So we're like, okay. And we went back in. So that's when we stayed in the mamad,
What time
in
is
the
this
safe room.
approximately? Is this in the afternoon?
Around, yeah, around like 1-ish p.m. Um, and then and then we kind of were like, oh no, we don't know what's going on, but we just like stayed in there. We ate snacks, we played games, we tried to distract ourselves. Um, and then when Shabbos was over, we turned on our phones and we saw what was really going on. Um, and that was when, like, besides for the miracle of being saved, like, terrorists didn't come, and our moshav wasn't like like they didn't even come to be able to get into our moshav. Besides for that, I was like, I think Hashem saved our family in not knowing all Simchas Torah day what was going on, because we kind of had this like not super scary day because we didn't know anything. But once we found out what was going on, we're like, uh-oh, okay. Um, we didn't tell our kids what exactly was going on. We just put everyone to sleep in the safe room together. And we're like, we have to leave. But we didn't, it wasn't safe to leave because the roads, no one knew what was going on the road still. So they thought they had all the terrorists, what's the word?
Neutralized?
Neutralized?
Neutralized.
Yeah. But they weren't sure. So we're like, we're not going on the road when it's really dark. All the roads near us are like they're country roads. We can't go on the roads. We're not driving now
You
in
have a
the
car.
dark.
Your family has a car, just to
Yeah,
get.
yeah. We have a car. Um, and the head of security on our moshav was like, I don't recommend leaving now because at least in your house, like so far, like the moshav is safe. It's better to stay put. But he's like, anyone who needs like feels like they need to leave, they can leave. So I have a friend that actually left at 12, like 12 or 1 in the afternoon. She was really scared. She knew everything that was going on. She got herself in the car with her kids and she started driving. And she said that was actually like the most dangerous thing for her to do because in the afternoon there were still terrorists right on the roads all around us, for sure. So we didn't leave, but we also didn't know what to do. It was really scary then. Um, I didn't sleep at all. Um, I did run out of our room to put in some laundry and take it out so that we had clean clothes to go. Not great idea. Um, so that's what we did. We're like, okay, we have to prepare. We're leaving first thing in the morning and we got to go. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't know for how long we were going for. We didn't know anything and we didn't tell our kids so far what was going on. But in the morning when we woke up and we threw everything together, um, again, like I didn't know what I grabbed. I grabbed the clothes that I washed, some like toothbrushes. A friend of mine reminded me to grab our passports, and then some, I don't remember, like some random things, maybe some food, but everything else we kind of left. Like we just left it. And I'm like, we weren't even thinking like, when are we going to be back? When is this going to be over? We're just like, we got to run. Um, and we have to be safe. So we jumped in the car and we drove this place.
Oh, you got muted, Michla. You got muted.
We drove, Nitivot is a city nearby us and it's further away from the Gaza border. So friends of ours said, it's good to like, we should drive to Nitivot and kind of then drive through the city because the highways were like still, had all kinds of things on the roads. Let's say that, like no non-neutralized terrorists, but there were bodies, there were pieces of cars. It was messy. It was very much a war zone. Um, I'm gonna backtrack for a second.
Sure.
On Simchas Torah Day, they were what's it called? Evacuating survivors and people who were injured and all this kind of stuff from the nearby kibbutzim and from the nearby roads. And they set up a field hospital right outside our moshav, right outside Shuva. And we had two doctors that lived there, three doctors, no, two doctors and a nurse who live on Shuva. And they went out and were trying to help run this field hospital. So we have a friend that's a doctor there. And he said it was crazy because they're running this field hospital and no one had any supplies and no one had anything. They were, I apologize if this is heavy, but they said there were a lot of dead bodies coming in and they had to, usually you cover a body and they didn't have anything to cover it with. So they were taking signs, like signs that were for elections coming up to cover them. And that's the kind of stuff that we drove through when we left, like very much war zone. So then we left and we started driving towards, we were in touch with our community. Our communities, basically we live with like a community within the town. It's made up of like 60 families who are called an intentional community. They're like, we're from like, I don't know, I think the word is like neo-Hasidic, like Breslov and Hasidic, people who like love Hasidus and Yiddishkeit and just are excited about it, and want to build like a living, breathing, beautiful Jewish community. So that's 60 families. So within that community, we're like, okay, we want to try to stick together. Instead of everyone just kind of trying to figure it out on their own, let's stick together.
Most of these people native Israeli, or they come from other places, their first generation?
Almost everyone is native Israeli, except for us and one other American family. Everyone else is Israeli. So we started driving out and we had no idea where we were going. So as we were driving, I was like, okay, I have a bunch of friends in Beersheba because we lived there for a while. I was like, if we need to, we'll just stop there and figure it out. But there were
How far is that? I mean, 10 miles.
Beersheba is half an hour drive. I don't know what that is. It's not far, but Beersheba was getting a lot of sirens still. So we're like, nope, we're not available for sirens right now. We need quiet. We need to go away from this. This was like a very, very heavy day. And so we were in touch with other community members and we're like, we're going to start driving towards Eilat. Eilat is all the way in the south. It's like a 2.5 hour drive south from where we lived. And at that point, it seemed like it was whatever security people we were asking, it was a good idea to drive to. There were no sirens there and there were no threats down there. It was like the war wasn't happening down there. So we drove down there. We ended up at a place called Park Timna, which is right outside Eilat. It's a really beautiful location. My kids were really excited to like go and have adventures there. We got there and the place, it's like a camping site kind of thing, but they have glamping and like caravan type of rooms, all different types of like sleeping options, different sleeping quarters. And they offered it for us. They're like, we're refugees, you guys could stay here, we'll figure everything out, don't worry. We got there, and the day we got there, these random people that lived in Eilat and the surrounding places came and brought us everything we could need, like from clothing to hygiene products to food to toys to books, everything, literally everything. Really Mikam Israel. And we were still like dazed and like confused and like it was a heavy day. And we just would like go to the like main room, the dining room, and they set up this whole like a store and everything we needed was there. We didn't have to like think, what do I need to go buy at the store? It was just there. And and it was really beautiful. So we were there for a week, and
And these other
after,
families also from your moshav were basically there too, or a
so
mixture?
we went, yeah, we were there with 10 families from our moshav and another like 20 families from different kibbutzim and moshavim in the area. So we were with, oh, that was another thing, is that like by the time we were like almost there, I was like, I gotta tell my kids, at least my bigger kids, what's going on.
Wow.
Um,
How did that go?
because not great.
Yeah.
But they're our kids are really resilient, Baruch Hashem. Um, but I had to tell them because they're friends and they're everyone we would be spending time with has people either missing or lost family, or their teachers have lost family, or everyone is super affected by it in big ways. Still, like we just left our community now, and there was one of our good friends there. His brother is still missing. He's a hostage still. And so it's not something we could like not talk about, because it's something that our kids were not just saying Tehillim for these random names. It was like their 6-year-old friend saying, and don't forget to say Tehillim for my uncle who's missing still, and for my grandmother who's in the hospital because she was wounded really badly, you know? Um, so in that, in
Right.
when we were in Timna, we were with 10 other families from our community. And then after a week over there, we decided we want to like try to be with more families in one location, because we realized this isn't going to end anytime soon. So somebody found a location where we could go, and we moved with 45 families to a location in a place called Kibbutz Almog, which is across the street from Yericho and near Mitzvah Yericho. So it's not in a super safe location, but the kibbutz itself was really well secured, and it was beautiful. They had lots of our friends in from like different communities in Oshavim are in like hotels, or mostly hotels. There's a lot of families in hotels. Um, our community was preferred not to be in a hotel. I was just like, we're a community with large families with many children in each family. And I'm like, I can't imagine going to a hotel and being stuck with all the kids playing on all with the elevator buttons all day and running up and down the hallways, you know? So we found a location that was like kind of these like outdoor small cabins, suites. In Hebrew, it's called a Kfar Nofesh, which is like a resort village. It sounds nicer than it is. Um, I mean, it's nice. If it was for vacation, it would be really nice.
But the
Um,
context there was important.
yeah, yeah.
And how long were you
Um,
there?
so we were there for 6 weeks now,
Wow.
6.5 until we left, and all our friends are still there. Um, and in that place, we built, like we put together, whatever, I don't know what it's called in English, like play group kind of thing, like for babies aged like 1 to 3, and gone like a preschool for ages 3 to 6. And then for elementary school kids, some kids, we have a lot of teachers with us in our community. So some grades, depending on the grade, they made a class there and kind of like made activities. Um, and my girls both went to a school in Mitzvah Yericho, which is a 7-minute drive away from there. Um, and the school there welcomed all these, I think they said over 300 refugee children into their school. And their school is already at max. The principal was telling us, he's like, 2 days, like right before the school year started, I had two kids trying to get into the school and he's like, I just don't have space. I'm not saying no because I don't want your kids, but I don't have space for two extra kids in the school. I just physically don't have space. I don't have the teachers. I don't have space. And he's like, um, now I have over 300 extra students in our school. So Hashem does miracles, you know?
Praise. Wow.
Um,
Do you
yeah,
know now what is literally going on in your moshav? Like we had a drone there and we could see what's going on. Is it just abandoned? Is there a military station there? Do we have any idea?
yeah. So there's military station there. I want to go back to like our kibbutz for a second.
Sure.
The chesed that we experienced the first week, in our like with people bringing us things, continued and got stronger the whole time we've been living as refugees. People have been donating their time and their crafts. We had like all kinds of therapists and like massage therapists and art teachers and all kinds of people coming to volunteer to do different workshops for the kids or for the adults and like bringing tons of toys and books and clothes and food. And we had a community bring donate fridges to make our life like a little easier, to kind of like give us some independence. They donated fridges and like small stove tops. I forgot what it's called, like burners.
Hooked the burn.
Um, yeah, stuff like that to make our lives like a little like not just easier, but like so it's our own, because we were eating in a cafeteria. Like we get the meals in the cafeteria, which is fine. Um, but it's hard, especially when you have a lot of kids, like different age kids, and there's very specific times for the cafeteria. So as time went on, we kind of like started creating this little life, alternate life outside our own home. Um, our moshav now, it's called Shetach Tzvai Sagur in Hebrew, which is closed
Say that with a
military.
real Israeli accent.
It's a closed military zone. Technically, it means that there are some people, mostly men, who sleep at home. Some people, like some older families, older couples, have gone back because they're like, we came here too many years ago, and we're not moving. You know, um, it's not dangerous per se right now to be there. Um, it gives the army extra work to do because it means that the army has to be looking out and making sure that you're okay all the time. So they don't want everyone to come back at all. And I went back to pick stuff up a couple weeks ago. Uh, and you feel the bombing that Israel is doing in Gaza like all the time. The ground is shaking. It's that close. The ground is shaking. There's smoke in the air the whole time. It feels very much like a war zone. It feels like you're inside the war. You're on the front line of a war. So it's not a great place to bring children back to live for sure. Um, right now, I actually have one time when my husband spoke to the head of security. He's like, "Listen, if any soldiers want to use our house, they're welcome to sleep, like whatever. Our house is open." We left our door open. When we left, my husband actually wanted to lock the door, and I was like, "Listen, if anyone's going to try to come in, like terrorists, they're going to come in whether the door is locked or not, and at least this way it won't be broken. Hopefully, like they don't have to work hard to get in the door. Let's just leave it open and go." And so our door has been open. Now the whole world knows. But we have soldiers sleeping in our house now. Um, and this is really beautiful because I came in a couple weeks ago. I just felt like I had to go to my house. I had to clean my house. I had to like remember that we have a home. Because it's really hard. I think like When I was younger, I was like, oh, I could be a nomad, like it's okay. But now it's a little bit harder with 5 kids.
Oh, sure.
Um, but I really feel like that I'm like, this is what Golos really feels like for the Jewish people when they were like in Mitzrayim and in the Midbar. I'm like, it's not grounded. We only have Hashem and we have nothing else. We can't pretend we have anything else. We have Hashem and Am Yisrael, and that's all we have. Um, so I went back to my house to kind of check in and clean it. And there were soldiers there. So I like knocked on my door and I was like, hey guys, I live here. And they actually didn't go into our bedrooms. They're just sleeping in the living room on their like mattresses that they brought. And so when I went there, I cleaned up the bedrooms. I like made it all nice. And I was like, listen, you guys are welcome to go sleep on the beds and in our bedrooms. And one guy is like, we have this big Rebbe picture in our living room. And he's like, no, I'm going to sleep here. I feel safe with the Rebbe watching me. I'm not moving from here. So I was like, that was special. So that's what our moshav is now. It's a military zone. The army is there, and the government is talking about maybe in 2 weeks at the end of December, maybe we're going to be able to go back home, but I don't know what it looks like. It's going to look differently for every family. I think because I don't know. I think there's no way to answer this kind of question. That's the truth. You could ask my mom how I answer it. It's not a clear answer.
Wow.
But also we came from the beginning of the war. We had lots of family that was like, okay, come back. Like you don't need to be there. And I felt really strongly that we made a choice to live in Israel. We made a choice to live in Eretz Israel. The Rebbe said it was the safest place, and it is the safest place in the world. And I was like, I'm not running away. I'm not running away from a war zone. We're here, and we're here to stay. But as time went on, one of my siblings actually was like, "How about Hanukkah vacation?" And I was like, "Huh, I think we deserve a Hanukkah vacation."
You deserve
Um, so, but also it's something that like just last year I was in the States for the first time in a lot of years, in like 3 or 4 years, and my husband came. We basically were like, we have 5 kids. We're not going as a family anymore. That ship has sailed. Um, we're gonna go once. I'm gonna take one kid. My husband took one kid at separate times. And we're like, that's it. Now we have a few years off of going to America. We're not going back to America. We sold all our dollars that we had, that we were saving up. We're like, America's not relevant for us like right now. It's not happening. What is it? I guess man plans and God laughs. Uh, 2 months later, we're back here in the States, and we came for a nice long Hanukkah vacation, thanks to some really special family and friends that helped get us here because it's not cheap or simple to get here. But Baruch Hashem, we feel really, really lucky and safe that we got here. We feel lucky that we're alive and that our house is okay, and that we have a home to go back to. Bezrat Hashem. And we feel really special that we got to experience this like Achdus of Am Yisrael that I really, really never felt in my life before. And I feel very strongly that like in Israel all over, there's all the signs say "Biyachad ninatzeach," together we will win. And I really feel strongly about that. That like we're all in the same army, like Jews in America, in Israel. We're all brothers and sisters, and we're all in the same army. We're at different maybe places, like we're at different fronts of the war, but we're fighting in the same war, and we're all in it together. And the only way we're going to win it is together. Yeah.
Well, Michla, thank you. Hashem should bless you and your whole community and all of Klal Yisrael. How can we help? Tell us. There's got to be a tzedakah. Tell me some ways or a website. I'll put it in the chat. Just tell me what we can do and we want to do it for you. Tell me. I'll type it up here.
I don't. Website? The truth is that I don't know.
Hey,
I was thinking.
I'll send it out to everybody.
Okay, I'm gonna think about it and figure it out somehow.
We hear your story.
Could we do a GoFundMe?
We honor your circumstance. If there's a GoFundMe, if there's any way that we can be helpful, please send it to me. We'll put it on the WhatsApp. We'll send it out. We'll include it in the link to the YouTube of this video. And thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. We want you to come on when you're back in Eretz Yisrael.
Yes.
In your home.
Yes, Hashem, you're all welcome to our home in Shuva.
We're coming. Soon.
Amazing. Yes.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. Hashem
cool.
send you brachas.
Amen.
Okay. Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night. Good night, everyone. Thank you, Michla. Thank you. Good night.